Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May 30th episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. We got two golf tournaments to talk about. Not only am I going to give out picks for the Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village, also going to talk a little LPGA, the Mizuho America's Open. Big reason why I'm going to talk about that is because I'm going to be there. It's being hosted at Liberty National, my backyard here. I thought I was going to go, so I figured I would apply for media credentials. I got somehow approved for them, so I'll be covering the event. I don't really know what that means. I've never been to a professional golf tournament as a fan. I've certainly never been to one as media, but I will be there at Liberty National this weekend for the Mizuho America's Open as media. Once again, don't know what that entails, but we'll find out. I'll be there on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to give out picks for that since I'll be there live covering it. But first, let's start with the Memorial Tournament. I think it's the second last non-major designated event of the PGA Tour season. Time is flying by. So all the best golfers will be competing this weekend at Jack's tournament at Muirfield Village. So quick overview of things that you should look out for. This is a pretty tough course, average score of plus 1.5 strokes. Since there was renovations in 2020, if you've been watching this tournament over the past couple of years, you'll remember in 2020, literally the moment the last putt, actually I think they were still playing, and they were already digging up like hole 13 or something. I don't know if that was just for looks or what, but they did major renovations the moment the 2020 tournament was over, and actually made the course a little bit more difficult. Like I said, since then the average score is 1.5 strokes over par. 21.1% of the tee shots at this course are from 175 to 200 yards out. That was a big difference that was made. Is that before a lot of them were about 150 to 175 yards out. Now those approach shots have become longer. 21.1% from 175 to 200 yards out. Also quite a bit higher than the PGA Tour average in terms of approach shots from 200 to 225 yards. That's 11.8%, which is quite a bit higher than the PGA Tour average. Very tough around the green. Tough around the green conditions. Thick rough. So second toughest around the green conditions. Sixth toughest green side bunkers. So what do we want this tournament? We want golfers who are going to be able to drive the ball accurately. Distance isn't as important, but you can't be super short off the tee. I would say aim to be in the top 150 in terms of distance. I would say 80 in terms of driving accuracy, though. And you want guys who can hit the greens at a high rate, because guys who don't hit the greens at a high rate and have to scramble from the areas around the greens are going to get in trouble. So high green regulations, high in strokes gained approach, really a ball striker's course. And we want to target guys specifically who are good from 175 to 225 yards out. Not a ton, at least below average, I think it's safe to say, in terms of short wedge shots. So we need the mid irons and long irons to be dialed in this week. And then also, of course, past performance. This is an event that's been going on forever. But I will say, be a little bit. Don't look at any results from pre-2020 as closely as you're going to look at 2021 and 2022. Obviously, the course, as I mentioned, a little bit different since the renovations have happened over the past 2 seasons, and then, of course, recent form. So let's get into my picks. Now, I'm not going to follow this strategy. I'm going to divert from the strategy that I've had through the first 5 months of the season, which was every time there was a designated event to bet on either Scottie Scheffler or Jon Rahm. And actually, I'm staying away from most of the guys near the top of the leaderboard. Scheffler, I've talked about this before, 182nd in sand save percentage. His putting has been questionable lately. So why don't we start there? Because this is, I'm actually making, I think, 2 of the same bets that I made last week. By the way, last week we hit Scheffler top 5, got very close with Russell Henley top 10. I think he was 2 strokes out of top 10. Akshay Bhatia top 20 was firmly in it, and I think he shot 7 over on Sunday. So that was a little bit of a stinger. And Sungjae Im, I don't know, his irons just completely have fallen apart the past 2 events. So why don't we start with the top 5 bets, since I'm talking about Scottie Scheffler. This was actually a winning bet for us last week, and it actually kind of went down exactly how I thought it might, where Scottie Scheffler's putting has not been good lately. He's either losing straight strokes putting to the field, or he's gaining like like a sliver of strokes gain with his putter, but he led the field by a wide margin last week in strokes gained tee to green. So his driving is still good. His irons are still the best on the PGA Tour. But if you want to win a PGA Tour event, especially one that has an elevated field like this one, you can't putt poorly. You might be able to win like a Mexico Open. Or like a RBC. Well, RBC Heritage this year was, I guess, elevated. But I'm thinking when Jordan Spieth won it last year when it was a pretty weak field, I think he won it while losing strokes putting. My point still stands. He has not been putting well enough for me to take Scottie Scheffler to win. And it's weird because if you watch the tournament, if he makes like 2 like 5-foot putts instead of missing like 10 of them, of the 10 that he missed, if he made 2, like he wins the event. So it makes it feel like it'd be easy to just hit 2 more of those putts each week and you're going to win every week. But he hasn't been doing it week after week. So I'm going to stay safe with Scottie Scheffler. He's been a top 5, top 10 machine for the past year pretty much. I'll take him top 5 plus 120. It's not as sexy as taking him to win, but it worked for us last week. I'm going to do it again this week. So that's my top 5 bet. My bet to win... there's pretty much everyone near the top of the odds list has something that scared me away. If I can bring up the odds list here and just quickly go through some guys. Jon Rahm, he sprays it off the tee sometimes, and that concerns me. Patrick Henley overall hasn't played really well lately. Rory McIlroy, it's shocking that he's still 4th in the odds list. He stinks. Xander Schauffele, got scared away from him again. I think it's just play around the greens that isn't good, or there was something that I saw in his stats that scared me away. Also, he's never had a top 10 at this event, I don't believe. Victor Hovland, terrible with his chipping. Morikawa, terrible with chipping and putting. Tyrrell Hatton, I actually did like him. I think I have him in my DFS lineup, which I'll give out. But he's only competed at this event once, and he finished like 33rd, so not a ton of course history here. Justin Thomas has been all over the place. Sung Jae Im, his irons have fallen apart. So who I've gone with to be my winner, a guy who won 2 weeks ago, Jason Day at 33 to 1. He has a house at Muirfield Village now. I would be careful with that a little bit because I've actually read some interviews with him where he says he actually doesn't play this course as much as some people assume that he does. Apparently there's another championship level course 10 minutes away from his house, and this course is 30 minutes away from his house, and he likes to go to the one that's 20 minutes closer. But still, he does play this course more often than the average golfer in this field does, so that is worth noting. And his stats just dialed in. 6th in total strokes gained, 22nd in approach, 13th in putting. Here's the big one, though. 2nd in both scrambling and in bogey avoidance this season. On a tougher course like Muirfield Village, you got to be able to get it up and down, and that's what he can do. 55th in driving accuracy, 24th in sand save percentage. Now, I am a little bit concerned because he did win 2 weeks ago, but he missed the cut before that win, and he missed the cut after that win. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can return to form a little bit this week. But I like him, especially at the current price that I got him at 33 to 1, which I will say was an offshore book. I probably should have shut my mouth last podcast episode where I alluded to an offshore book that I was using and that I had to use a VPN for because that sports book has blocked my account and sent me an email saying, we know that you're not actually in the country of Canada. We are blocking your account until you return to Canada, which fair enough. Probably should have shut my mouth on the podcast a couple weeks ago. This one I can use from the States, the one where I got 33 to 1. It's Bet Online, by the way. I'll just say it. By far the best price I could find on Jason Day was at Bet Online, 33 to 1. Most places, most regulated books, I was finding like 28 to 1. Top 10 bet, same bet that I made last week. Russell Henley. I just think he's being undervalued. If you're looking for value, if you're looking at like data golf numbers, he's ranked way higher than what odds makers have him ranked. T16 last week, he just missed out on catching top 10 for us. He's gained strokes putting in 4 of his last 5 starts, which is his biggest weakness for the majority of the season. He seems to have figured out his putting. He is the most accurate driver on tour, 1st in driving accuracy, 30th in scrambling, 5th in scrambling from the rough, 18th in bogey avoidance. Not a guy I would want to bet on at an event that's going to be a birdie fest, but a guy that I want to bet on at a tougher event like the Memorial Tournament. So I like Russell Henley, top 10 again at plus 375. And top 20, a guy that I've bet on a little bit in the past, earlier in the season. I'm going to return to betting on him now. Ryan Fox, who I thought was Australian, but I think he's from New Zealand. Flag is very similar. Apologies to the Kiwis out there. Finished 27th or better in 10 of last 11 starts worldwide. I'll repeat that. Finished 27th or better in 10 of last 11 starts worldwide. T23 at the PGA Championship, T26 at the Masters, T14 at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He has no real weaknesses. He's not going to blow your socks off with any part of his game, but he pretty much on a consistent basis gains strokes in all 4 major areas. So I like him to sneak into the top 20 here at plus 350. I think he's another guy who's being undervalued. If you want a DFS lineup, the one I put together is Jason Day, Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki Matsuyama, Adam Scott, Ryan Fox, and Billy Horschel. Billy Horschel, the winner of the event here last year. Not a guy who's been playing extremely well lately, but a guy who has always succeeded at this course, and he won it last year. He's a defending champ. You can get a pretty good price on him. So once again, DFS lineup that I like: Jason Day, Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki Matsuyama, Adam Scott, Ryan Fox, Billy Horschel. I'm a big team international this week with what I got: 2 Aussies, a Kiwi, and a Japanese golfer. Basically the next year's President's Cup team. Day, Hatton, Matsuyama, Scott, Fox, Horschel for my DFS lineup this week. Let's switch over to the Mizuho Americas Open. If I can quickly shift my notes over here. It is at Liberty National. Now, as I'm typing this, I'll talk about Liberty National because Liberty National is a course that we've seen on the PGA Tour at times over the past decade or so. Specifically, I think 2 events and a President's Cup. Last time, it used to hold, it was like the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. The last time that PGA Tour held a course was my first night in New York, or my first day in New York. I was going to go to Sunday's round. I think it was my first weekend. I think I got in Friday night. I bought a ticket to go Sunday, and it rained out. So I wasn't able to go. If you remember, they finished that event on Monday. Tony Finau won in a playoff against Cameron Smith. I had Cam Smith 40-1. But my point in saying all this is that we know this course because PGA Tour events have been hosted here. So what we need is accuracy is not really important because the fairways are extremely wide for the most part, but a ton of sand traps and a decent amount of water hazards. So 98 sand traps on the course at Liberty National. It's basically a ball striker's course. You got to have strong iron play. Distance not too important as well. The winner before Tony Finau, so I think this was back in 2019. The winner is Patrick Reed, which is kind of more of the golfer that I'd recommend in terms of style of play to target this week. Not necessarily a long driver, but great short game, great putter, great chipper, great out of the bunkers is going to be huge because there's 98 of them on the course. And great iron player, or at least solid iron player. All right, let's get to my picks here. My favorite pick, who I think is the best golfer on the LPGA right now, and this is always tough because LPGA does not have as in-depth statistics as the PGA Tour does, but they do have strokes gained data now, which they haven't had in the past. So I'm going to go with Jin Young. I didn't put her last name in. Jin Young Ko. I think she is the best golfer on PGA Tour or on the LPGA right now, and she's second on the odds list. I think she should be the favorite. Second in strokes gained approach, second in greens and regulation, first in scoring average. Now, why she probably isn't the betting favorite is because her putting does let her down sometimes. 38th in strokes gained putting, but still, she's a great iron player. I think the best iron player on the PGA or on the LPGA right now. First in scoring average at 9-1. I think that's a pretty good bet. So I'm going to go with the second golfer on the odds list in Jin Young Ko. And then I got some fairly decent long shots here. Ashley Buhe, who I think is South African, I think. Forgive me if I'm incorrect about that. But sixth in strokes gained approach, so very good iron player. But then a lot better in terms of short game, specifically 12th in sand save percentage. 17th in scoring average. Her putting is kind of subpar, and her driving distance isn't very long. She's 122nd in terms of average driving distance, but this is kind of the golfer I found who I think is kind of the Patrick Reed comparison in terms of style to play. I'm sure she's a lot more likable than Patrick Reed, but in terms of style of play, I think Ashley Buhey is pretty similar in terms of her numbers. Also, she's heading into this event in pretty good form. She's coming off a third place finish at the Founders Cup there in early May. So good form, good short game, or at least solid putting, but good around the greens, great approach player. At 40, what did I put in? Yeah, 46 to 1. And by the way, all these golf odds or for LPGA, FanDuel, I found actually everyone I'm betting on, the best prices were all on FanDuel for some reason. So Ashley Buhey, 46 to 1. I'm going to take a shot. And by the way, when I recorded this, when I'm recording this Tuesday morning, no top 5, top 10, or top 20 odds for LPGA yet. Most of these golfers I'm going to dabble in top 5, top 20. Specifically, this next one, I did better to win outright, but I'm probably going to take her top 10 as well. Rose Zhang, if you don't know her, she has probably been the most highly touted LPGA prospect in as long as I've been following the LPGA. Coming out of Stanford, she won 12 of 20 tournaments at Stanford. She has won 9 of the last 11 amateur tournaments that she has competed in, including the Augusta National Women's Amateur, which you might remember her winning that right before the men's Masters in April. The Pac-12 Women's Championship. This girl is a highly touted prospect, and she has officially turned professional. She is making her pro debut this week. That is going to be the storyline of the week. So, of course, I got to dabble in that a little bit. I don't want to miss out in case she does win or finish in top 10, which I'm going to bet as well. So, Rose Zhang, the storyline of the week, I'm going to back her 42 to 1 is the best price I could find her. And like I said, that was at FanDuel as well. And then this one, I wouldn't recommend tailing, but just because I'm going to be there, this is a heart bet. My fellow Canadian, the best Canadian golfer of all time, Brooke Henderson, 42 to 1. Same price as Rose Zhang, but her numbers have not been good this year. So I actually wouldn't recommend betting this, but I'm going to be there. If I'm going to be there, I'm going to support my fellow country women, and I'll take Brooke Henderson. And maybe it might be a good buy low spot on her, to be honest, but her numbers, she won the first event of the year, and her numbers have not been good lately. 89th in strokes gained approach, 47th in greens and regulation. Her putting is good. It's kind of a bizarre world, Brooke Henderson, where usually her putting lets her down, but she's a great approach player. Opposite this year, she's 29th in putting average, but her approach play has been terrible. But this is a rare opportunity where you're going to find her at 42 to 1. And there's some top golfers not in the field as well. So it might be like Nelly Korda isn't in the field. Lexi Thompson's not in the field. Might be a decent time to actually buy low on Brooke Henderson. So Jin Young Ko, 9 to 1. Rose Zhang, 42 to 1. Ashley Buha, 46 to 1. And Brooke Henderson, 42 to 1. There you go. 2 golf tournaments, 1 podcast. Best of luck with all your bets this week. Gambler, the gambling god, may he bless all of your picks. And I'll talk to y'all next week.